how many of you have ever played hide and seek? Yeah, that's all of us, right? That's right. You know, sound like my mother-in-law played it very often. One night, Heidi and I were playing hide and seek. Well, that just came out wrong. With our kids, and so what happened is we just having a fun night, and so we all put glow sticks on our wrists, and we turned off all the lights. It was pitch dark in the house, and we played hide and seek in the house, which was a lot of fun trying to find places to hide all this. You know, this is not fitting under the kitchen cabinet. I can tell you that. You know, right now. But we had a total blast doing it. Now, I will say this is, I think today many of us are still playing hide and seek. We are. And I'll give you an example of why. In Genesis chapter 3, verses 8 and 9, it says this. It says, when the cool evening breezes were blowing, the man and his wife heard the Lord God walking about in the garden. So they hid from the Lord God among the trees. Then the Lord God called to the man, where are you? Now, there's a few things in there that I really like. And I've mentioned this before, but I think it's really cool that Adam and Eve knew the footsteps that they heard coming were the footsteps of God. That would mean that they had to walk with God often enough to be able to, like they knew, oh, no, that's God. That's not a rhino, you know, or that's not a cheetah. That's not a T-Rex, you know. Like they knew that is the footsteps of God. Now, this happened just after Adam and Eve had blown it. And so as a result of their choice, like sin entered the world, so that regret and shame, that entered the world as well. And so their response was, when they heard God walking in the garden, is they hid. And I think the reality is many of us do the same thing as well. Because of our own shame and guilt and regret for things that we've done, our choices that we've made in our lives, sometimes when we have to come face to face with what it is that we've done, what do? We hide. We hide. And so then God asked a very profound question. He asked the question, where are you? Where are you? Now, one of the things that we do every week is we try to find a Bible reading plan. And so for those of you that may not know what that is there's an app called the YouVersion Bible app. And on the YouVersion Bible app, they have these plans that are also known as devotionals. And so what you could do is each day they have a breakdown. So they'll have like an inspirational reading for the day and then verses that go along with it. And so what we do is every week we try to find something that connects with the sermon for that week so that we can go through and kind of be able to read it together. And it takes about maybe 5-10 minutes tops of your day to kind of go through. It's a great way, if you want to begin to build momentum in your life and connecting with God, it's a great way to start. But what I wanted to do is I read something this week, and it just really inspired some thought. And so I wanted to share that with you so that you can see the kind of things that we're reading each week as we do the devotionals. And so here it says, and you can read it around on the screen. It says, when God asked Adam, where are you? It was more than a question of location. It was a profound call to self-examination. This call to self-examination is not about condemnation, but about realizing where we stand with God and choosing to step back in his light. God's question is an invitation to return, to come out from hiding, and to be honest about our spiritual condition. So I love that perspective. Because in the past, I've heard people talk about, where are you? And it was almost like God was pointing out their shame or their guilt. But what God was doing is God was saying, look, I recognize there's a divide between us right now. There's a divide between us right now. And what I would love to do is ask you to do the self-examination. Where are you? So you can kind of examine yourself and be able to say, look, this is where I'm at right now. And then God can say, look, I understand that. Now come, step back into the fold. Step back into the connection. Step back into relationship with me. That's the invitation that this passage offers to us when God asks us that question, where are you? So today we're finishing up a series that we're doing called The It Factor. And here's what we're doing in this series is we're looking at that aspect about people's lives. Like many of us know other people that we look at and we go, there's something about them. There's just something about them. And it's they have it. They have a certain je ne sais quoi. I just wanted to say that. But they have it. And so what I wanted to do is just begin to look at how do we begin to have it in our lives? Because really the goal of this series, as we're looking at New Year's and reinvention and being able to change our lives, the goal for this series really has been to help you to be able to realize that change is within reach. That it's possible, that it really can happen. And why is it that it can happen? Is because of this reason you can see around on the screen. And that's simply this. God's grace is greater than your past failures. God's grace is greater than your past failures. As a matter of fact, repeat that after me. God's grace is greater than my past failures. It's greater than my past failures. And so as a result of that means that ultimately that I really can change. And so here's what we did over the course of the series is week 1, we looked at grace. And we talked about what grace is. And we also encouraged you for this year because every one of us in trying to change our lives, we're going to make mistakes. We're going to falter. And so the idea is don't give up on yourself. Give yourself the same grace that God has given you. So that way you can begin to look at your life, begin to make changes, and move forward to what God is calling you to do. And then week 2, we talked about love. And we looked at developing your love relationship with God. And also what we did that week is we talked about starting small. Rather than making these huge, grandiose gestures of change and wanting to become more, how about just starting small and just begin to build momentum in your life to see change happen in your life? And then the next week we talked about purpose, that there's a reason why you are here. And as a result of that purpose, hopefully as we begin to understand that my life is meant to be impactful, a life of influence, a life of meaning, a life of value, a life of purpose. And the more that I understand that purpose and begin to love others the way that God has loved me, then I begin to look at myself and I begin to ask myself, what is it that hinders me from being able to love others the way that God desires for me to love me, or for me to love them? And so I began to deal with things in my life that hinder that. And then the next week we looked at confidence and just being able to have confidence about who we are and who God has fashioned us to be. That our lives are not defined by our failures and our mistakes and our flaws. We can be confident. And so now as we wrap up this series today, I want to look at this last thing. Something that people that have it, that they have, is they have what I would call focus. Is they're able to dial in on things that they want to be able to achieve and have in their lives. And here's what I found about focus. And it goes back to this, and you can see this right on the screen as well. And as simply this, is that your thoughts shape your life. And so whatever your thoughts focus on, or however your thoughts focus, right, they shape your life. Remember when you would go to the optometrist, and the optometrist would put that thing over your face, right? And then what they would do is they would put these lenses down, and they would say what? A or, and then you would go, can I see that again? Okay, A or B? And then you'd go, I think A, right? And then C or D? Okay, D, definitely, right? So the idea is, what is the optometrist trying to do? Is the optometrist is trying to bring clarity to your vision. And so when we are able to look at our thoughts and we're able to align our thoughts in the way that God has us and He desires for us to do, then what it does is it begins to bring clarity in our lives. And again, what we see before us is that change is possible. It is achievable because of the work that God has already done. And so as a result of that, I'm able to begin to change my life. So why is it so important for us to be able to know our thoughts and deal with our thoughts? William, go ahead and put that screen up go ahead and put that picture, up on the screen. Now, this person is cross-country skiing. And look how beautiful that background. Some of you going, that ain't beautiful. You know, some of you going, I'm not living there. That's why I chose California, so I don't have to do that. And I can tell you now, my mother-in-law is seeing that going, I wish I was there. So, but if you notice as she's cross-country skiing, you'll notice that she's doing, what is she doing? What do you see? Where her skis at? Is she skating in the fresh powder here? She's in the track, right? She's in the rut. Now here's my question, and throw out your answers. Why? Why do you think she's skiing in the track or skiing in the rut? Why do you think she's doing that? Easier? Good. What else? What's that? Smoother? Okay. Good. What else? She trusts the track. So in other words, there's less risk involved in going down the track. Good. Anyone else? Why? Any other thoughts? Okay, so this is also a picture of the way that your brain works. So what's happened is in your brain, what you've done is you created ruts. You created tracks. And so as a result of that, what tends to happen is when you are upset, when you're frustrated, when you're tempted, when you're irritated, when those things kick in, what you've done in your life is you created certain pathways. And so what your brain will do is your brain will follow that rut because that is the easiest pathway to get to the answer that it desires. Now, here's the thing. If on the end of that pathway is something that is unhealthy, because that is the rut that we've created, then that's where our brain will go. But if there is something on the other side of that rut that is healthy, that moves us towards God, that's where our brain will go as well. And so as we look at this, the whole idea that I'm trying to encourage us to do is to begin to think about the ruts that we have in our thought process and begin to start to, in many ways, create new ones, create new ruts with our lives, create new pathways. So what has happened is God's already done the hard work. Remember what we've talked about this, and I want to encourage you, if you've missed any of the messages over the course of this series, please, or if you want to review the messages over the course of this series, go to our website, click Services on Demand, click the thumbnail for this series, and you can go back and you can watch all the messages from this series. But I just want to encourage you just to remember that God has already done the hard work. The moment that you made a decision like, God, I'm going to follow you with my life, God has already done the hard work. God has already gone to the cross. God has already done the hard work of seeing you forgiven, of your sin being dealt with. And so as a result of that, when you choose to believe in God, in his eyes, you are already changed. Because he sees you through the lens of Christ. In his eyes, you are already perfect. Because he sees you through the lens of Christ. He doesn't see you through the lens of your suffering, your struggle, your failure, your setbacks. He sees you through that lens. And so now what we have to do is begin to grow in our relationship with God where we create new pathways that instead of going to the old us in the way that we used to respond, now we can begin to create new pathways that move us in a new direction. But here's the thing, creating new pathways takes work. That's why your brain goes to old pathways, because that's what it knows. That's what it's comfortable with. And so it will take work to begin to see some change happening in our lives. But I want to encourage us because, again, it is possible because of the work that God has already done. Matter of fact, God puts it this way in Romans chapter 12, verse 2. He says, don't copy the behavior and customs of this world, but let God transform you into a new person by changing the way you think, right? Then you will learn to know God's will for you, which is good and pleasing and perfect. Let God change the way that you think. Now, in order for that to happen, it will take investment. In order for that to happen, it will take work. But now, here's the thing, and I know that you've noticed this. You decide, I'm going to change an aspect of my life. I'm going to change. And then what happens is the old temptations that we never thought of before that kick in, all of a sudden we're now aware of them. For example, you make the commitment to quit smoking. I'm going to quit smoking. Now, I'm not saying smoking is a sin, so let me make that really clear. I'm just saying you want to have a better health pathway in your life. So you make a commitment to quit smoking. So I'm going to choose a new pathway because on the other side of that pathway, I'm healthy, I'm not smoking. I've been healed. So, but haven't you noticed that when you try to get off the old rut to create a new rut, that same week, you're ticked off, you're irritated, you're frustrated, and somebody offers you a cigarette. Right? Haven't you noticed that? I'm going to quit drinking. Same thing, somebody offers you what? A drink. They offer you, hey, take a Modelo. kind of thing. Somebody offers you a beer. Or let's say, you know what, I decided I am no longer going to lust. I'm just not going to go that anyway. And then you happen to walk into a store and a guy is bending over or a girl is bending over and you're like, dang it! I've made that commitment, kind of thing. Or you make the decision that I am going to manage my money better. I'm going to get better at the way that I navigate my finances. And so as a result of that, you try to do a better job navigating your finances. That's also the same week that Amazon has a flash sale. Right? Have you noticed that? Or Cyber Monday kicks in, or Black Friday kicks in. But there's always something that tempts you. Or I'm going to watch my anger. I'm making a commitment. I am thinking about people differently. I'm gonna watch my anger. And then somebody cuts you off, and then flim, flam, farfignugan, it's coming out of your mouth, and then all of a sudden you're like, dang it. So I want to let you know that because you've decided to change, and here's the reality. Those temptations are always there. They're always there. But you don't notice them because you're not trying to change them. But the moment you try to create a new rut in your life, a new pathway in your life, then that moment, boom, it kicks in. Boom, it kicks in. And then you realize, like, oh my goodness, all of these temptations that are there, and I'm trying to change and grow and become better and develop in my life and those kind of things. So here's what I want to do today is I want to look at 3 powerful thought ruts that we have. We'll look at the biblical answer to them, and then we'll look at how can we become healthy in the way that we think. How do we change that and become healthy in the way that we think? So as we do that, I want to encourage us to begin to investigate and dive into these things. So here's the first one. Thought rut number 1. You can see that right on the screen, and that is, might as well give up. I've already blown it. How many of you have thought that? Yeah, might as well give up. I've already blown it. I've already blown it. This is also known as all or nothing thinking. And so this is what happens when we make a commitment to say, this year I am going to be different. Then what we do is we do this grandiose gesture, and this grandiose gesture is like, I will never, or I will always. And then we blow it, we mess up, and then we think, well, I've already blown it, and then we just kind of give up on ourselves. There was this one point where Jesus had just finished talking about repenting. And once he was done going over that process of repentance and what it looks like, he tells a story. And it's a really powerful one. And I want to look at that this morning. So in Luke chapter 13, verses 6 through 9, it says, then Jesus told this story. A man planted a fig tree in his garden and came again and again to see if there was any fruit on it. But he was always disappointed. We decide to change, and we're hoping to see the fruit of change, but it's not happening, and so we get what? Disappointed. Finally, he said to the gardener, I've waited 3 years, and there hasn't been a single fig. Cut it down. It's just taking up space in the garden. I've been trying to change, I'm done. It's just not happening. The gardener answered, Sir, I love this. Give it one more chance. Show it grace. Give it one more chance. And that's what God is saying. Don't give up on yourself. Give it one more chance. Sir, give it one more chance. Leave it another, and I love this, leave it another year. Not leave it another day, not leave it another hour, not even leave it another week. Leave it another year. Why? Because it takes time. It takes time to change and to grow. It says, and I'll give it special attention and plenty of fertilizer. If we get figs next year, fine. If not, then you can cut it down. So I love this. I love this aspect. So Jesus talks about repentance, and then he tells this story. And what he does in this story is he's saying, look, I know that you want to change, but you're not seeing the fruit of change. And so our tendency is to say, well, I'm done. It's cut down the tree because it's not going to happen. And so what the gardener does, and I think the gardener represents God in this passages, is God is saying, well, or Jesus is saying, give it time. Give it another year. And then I love what the gardener says, is the gardener says, give it another year, leave it, and we'll just see what happens. Is that what the gardener says? No. The gardener said, I will give it special attention. So here's the thing, is if you want to change the ruts that are in your brain, it's not going to happen just through existence. It's not going to happen just through a day. And let me tell you this, it's not going to happen because you want it to happen, and it's not going to happen just because you made one-time commitment for it to happen. It's going to take special attention. In other words, that means that gardener was going out every day, checking it, looking at the leaves, watering the plant, seeing how the sun is affecting it. What can we do? He was giving it special attention. So if you want to change the way that you think, it's going to take giving your brain special attention and processing so you can begin to build new ruts in your life. And then it says, and give it plenty of fertilizer. So in other words, I'm going to give it healthy stuff for it to grow on. So you want to begin to give your brain healthy stuff for your brain to be able to grow on. That's the key to being able to change your thinking. And so as we begin to look at this process, I love what this is encouraging us with, because I want to make sure that you know that you are going to make mistakes. But that doesn't mean that you are defined by your old rut. You made a mistake. So then what you do is you get back up, you examine it, you look at it, because that's what grace is. Grace is another opportunity. Like, God, I know that I didn't want to do it, and I did it again. And God says, all right, I forgive you. Now, let's go back and let's re-examine this journey. Let's look at patterns. Let's look at ways that you can change and you can grow. And God does. God makes that change possible. So he invites us to step into that relationship with him as a result of it. And that brings us to the healthy thought. What is a healthy thought? I am a work in progress. I am a work in progress. So if I make mistakes, if I falter, if I fail, I'm a work in progress. And I trust God in the process of doing that. So I'm a work in progress. So that's the first healthy thought. Next is thought rut number 2. Thought rut number 2. Thought rut number 2 is this. I am who I am. I will never change. I am who I am. I will never change. And I don't know if you've ever felt that way or believed that way about yourself. I'll never change. It's impossible. It's not going to happen. I don't have the opportunity to be able to grow. And so what you do is you kind of give up on yourself because it's just me. One of the things I love about 12 steps, and let me say this, I'm not being hypercritical of 12 steps. One of the things I love about 12 steps is it allows people to come face to face with their struggle and to be able to admit their struggle. So if you're at a meeting, you would say, hello, my name is Ken, I'm an alcoholic, and everybody would go, hey, Ken, kind of thing. Or, hello, my name is Ken, I struggle with food addiction, I struggle with sex addiction, I struggle with drug addiction, I struggle with codependency, or I am codependent, I am an alcoholic, I am a drug addict, I am a sex addict, like that kind of thing. And so there's a healthy aspect about being able to admit where you're at with your struggle. The wrestle that I have with it, though, is I am literally defining myself by my struggle. Hello, my name is Ken. I'm an alcoholic. So I'm defining myself by my struggle. And so how do we look at that differently? And I think the way that we can look at that differently is begin to look at ourselves the way that God looks at us. I love this. In Philippians chapter 4, verse 21, it says, give my greetings to each of God's holy people, all who belong to Christ Jesus. The brothers who are with me, send you their greetings. Now, here's the beauty of this. It says, greet God's holy people. The interesting thing is the Greek word that is used there for God's holy people also has the same root as the Greek word for saint. For saint. So if somebody were writing a letter to Encounter saying, hey, Ken, I'm so blessed by Encounter, greet all of the saints at Encounter, that's what that passage is saying. Greet all the saints. Now, I can already tell what you're probably thinking. Saints. I ain't from New Orleans. No. That's not what you're thinking. Terrible joke. All right. That's a football joke. Football fans got it. All right. So, saints. But the reality is, you may look at that and go, I'm not a saint. Ken, you know what I did on my way to church this morning? I'm not a saint. And I think, unfortunately, what's happened is the word saint has been misappropriated. And so as a result, when we hear the word saint, we think about someone who is morally perfect, right? Or when we hear the word saint, we think about someone who has done something really phenomenal for God. So we think someone is a saint because they have earned, quote unquote, sainthood. Okay? That's great. That actually isn't what saint is. It's not. A saint is never based on your performance. Being called a saint is never based on how morally good you are or how many incredible things that you're doing for God. It is not based upon you. Being a saint is based upon what Jesus Christ did. And so when God looks at you, God sees a saint. Now you may be thinking, well, that's not what I see in myself. Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. When God sees you, he sees a saint. So turn to your neighbor and say, hey, saint. Because you are. In God's eyes, you are a saint. Now, what does saint mean? Saint means set apart. Saint means chosen. And so the moment that you made a decision to follow Jesus, you became a saint. You were set apart. You were set apart by God's love, set apart by God's mercy, set apart by God's grace, and you were set apart as now, because of what he's done, you are one of his. You're one of his. And you did nothing to earn it. All you simply said was, yes, Jesus. And you became a saint. So now, here's what I wanted to encourage us to begin to think about. So what if we had this approach? Hello, my name is Ken, and I'm a saint who struggles with alcoholism. You see the difference? Hello, my name is Ken, and I'm a saint who struggles with codependency. Hello, my name is Ken. I'm a saint who struggles with drug addiction. Hello, my name is Ken. I'm a saint who struggles with controlling my temper. Hello, Ken. I'm a saint. My name is Ken, and I'm a saint who struggles with gossip. See, do you see the difference there? So it's important for you to realize, like, if you are going to change, you cannot define yourself by your struggle, because that will keep you in your struggle. Define yourself by, again, what God has declared about you. And so that brings us, and here's how this helps. Many of you know, for example, one of the things I'm trying to do this year is eat healthier, right? I'm trying to eat healthier. But if I define myself by my failure, then what do I focus on? What do I focus on? My failures, my mess-ups. And I guarantee many of you have done this, is you can have a great day. You've been practicing, you've been implementing, you've been doing the things you desire to do. And so I had a great day. I was choosing some healthy choices when it came to eating. I was really excited about it. And then that evening came. I didn't go to bed at the time I should have gone to bed. And so I found myself eating chips and salsa once again late at night. And do you know what I did? I've blown it. Why struggle? And it put me kind of on a path where I struggled for a few nights as a result of it. Why? Instead of looking at all of the successes that I had during that day, I focused on when I blew it. So what I want to encourage you to do is when you begin to see yourself differently, then as a result of that, what can happen is you begin to even look at your failures differently. And now I can look at my failures and go, where were my successes? What did I do well that day? Okay, now, if I knew what I did well, what did I do differently that evening? And so now I begin to work on changing those things. So I celebrate what I did well, and then I begin to change patterns so I can change what I do in the evenings. So now it's important because I think that we do that. We can have tons of success, and we'll focus on that one failure and allow that failure to define us, and we go back to the pathway that we lived before, right? We've done that. I've done that. So I want to encourage you. Don't see yourself defined by your failures. Define by what God says you are. A saint. And so now, even if I struggle, God, I'm a saint. And here's the beauty of when you understand that, is I'm already a saint. Not I will be a saint. I'm already a saint. And this goes back to what we said before, is I don't change in order to get good. I change because I am good because of what God has done. That's why change is possible. That's why it's in the realm. That's why we can achieve change in our lives. Because God has already declared it so. So now it's just creating new ruts in the direction where God desires for me to go. So that brings us to our healthy thought. Our healthy thought, which is this: God made me new. I am no longer who or what I was. God made me new. I am no longer who or what I was. And that brings us to the final thought rut for today. Thought rut number 3. My hurdle is just too big. Can I struggle with this all my life? I'm now 50 years old. You know, how can I change? It's just too big. When I was in high school, I had a bully named William Conley. Why do we always remember the names of our bullies, right? William Conley. And I just started the 9th grade, going to high school, and William Conley would pick on me every day. Every day. So one day, because I was a latchkey kid, so one day my mom came home, and I was doing my homework, and she said hi to me, and I said hi to me. And she said, "What's wrong with you?" And I did the typical teenage thing. You know what we say. What did I say? Nothing. What's wrong with you? Nothing. And she said, "Boy, I know you. What's wrong with you?" Nothing. Don't make me. Okay. So then I told her about William Conley. And she said, I could go up to the school, and I could say that the school needs to do something about it. But before I do that, I want to encourage you to fight your own battle. So here's what I want to encourage you to do. When you go to school tomorrow, this is my mom telling me this. When you go to school tomorrow, if William Conley says anything to you, I want you to haul off and hit him as hard as you can. And I was like, really? She's like, yeah. I said, but I might get in trouble with the school. Don't worry about it. I will go to the school, and I will deal with it. But I want you to go to school, and I want you to hit him as hard as you can. So I was like, all right. Now, as I say this, let me make this really clear. I am not advocating violence, or anything like that. But what my mom wanted me to do is my mom wanted me to fight my battle. And she knew that if she came to school and fought the battle for me, then William Conley would have more ammunition. Like, you need your mom to fight you, kind of thing. So I got to school the next day, and William Conley said something to me. And I just went red, like, ah! And I grabbed him, and I put him up against, and I actually lifted him up, put him up against the wall. And I realized, like, oh, shoot. And then I realized I was afraid of this. I was afraid of this. And then everybody in the playground went, ooh, that kind of thing. So I held him against the wall, and I said, if you ever say anything to me, I will kick your high yellow bleep, because I have to edit that. And I put him down. And then I also realized this. Every day he'd pick on me, call me Four Eyes. He had glasses on. They were thicker than mine. Kind of thing. We have a bully. That bully is called sin. And so what that bully desires to do is to pin you and cause you to think, I can't win this battle. The bully is just too big. But here's the beauty of this is that we have to understand is what Jesus Christ did. When Jesus Christ went to the cross, he fought that bully on your behalf. And he won that battle. So that bully now has no power over you. So as a result of that now, what Jesus says is, look, I will walk through this battle with you. I love what it says in 1 Corinthians chapter 15, verses 56 and 57. For sin is a sting that results in death, and the law gives sin its power. But thank God he gives us victory over sin and death through our Lord Jesus Christ. Isn't that beautiful? That's beautiful. So the bully doesn't call the shots. Jesus does. And with the help of Jesus, we now have the capacity to begin to develop new thought ruts in our lives, where our life goes in a completely different direction. And we're able to now begin. And here's the beauty of this. Here's what will happen. The snow will come. The snow represents temptation. The snow represents situations. The snow represents those things that pull you back into going down that. The snow will come. And what will happen is as you begin to develop new pathways, then you will begin to dig pathways into that snow. It's going to take work. It's going to take application. It's going to take moving forward. But again, you're moving in a pathway that's already been declared. So you already know that you're going to be victorious because God's already declared you to be victorious. It's just a matter of now living my life where that's going to become reality. But the beauty of that is snow is going to fall, and what will happen is as you're digging new ruts, the snow will cover your old ones. Until eventually, you have carved a new rut to where now, when temptations, circumstances, situations, when those things kick in, you have new thought ruts that take you to respond and navigate them and handle them in healthy ways. So it's possible. Which brings me to healthy thought. Healthy thought. God has already won the battle. He's already won the battle. It's a done deal. It's over. Hey, yo, God's already won the battle. That's my Sylvester Stallone. So, yeah, I know, it's terrible, right? It's terrible. You know, shut up. You know, but God has. God has won the battle. So here's the beauty. Is when you step into the ring to fight that battle, it's already won. The knockout blow has already been dealt. So begin to put the work in. So just to let you know, this is the reason why I created these sheets. I talked about them last week in more detail, so I won't go into them too much today. But these are available for you on the back. Take them, grab them, use them. And there's also others that you can use for prayer and everything as well. But use them. Because what it does is it helps you to begin to look at a new vision of you and begin to move towards it. And let me tell you how this helped me. And so this also is based on our core value of love up, love out, love in. Every day you're looking at how am I loving out, loving up, loving in. And so let me tell you how this helped me. Is going through, I used them this week. And all of a sudden I began to realize I have a pattern of procrastination. And when I procrastinate, I do stupid stuff. I realize that. And so at night, when it's time to go to bed, when I should just get up, go to bed, I procrastinate, lollygag, and then I end up eating. It's like, oh my gosh, I should have just went to bed. So I was able to go through that. I noticed that pattern this week, and so my goal this week is to step out. Is as soon as I feel like get it done, like get moving. That's my goal this week. So that's the benefit of using a tool like this. And so like I said, the goal of this isn't legalism or anything like that, The goal of this is not to utilize this for you to become good. No, it's for you to step into the truth of what God has already declared. But it's a tool that is there to help you so you can begin to look at and analyze things. And I also want to let you know this too. Like, if you want me to sit down with you and kind of process and work through it together, I would love to do that. We can sit down, we can go out for coffee, especially if you treat. But I would love to do that. We can sit down, we can kind of process it and walk through it and everything together and hopefully begin to see some new patterns develop in your life. But again, you will not change simply by existing. Like, it's going to take intentionality, and we're going to face those things. So again, here at Encounter, we encourage us to love up, love out, and love in, right? Love up is in our relationship with God. And so love up, here's what we want to encourage you. So we finish every sermon with these thoughts. Love up. Let God define you, not your failure. Let God define you, not your failure. Now, why is this so important? Because here's the thing. Some of us, what we do is we look at ourselves in certain lenses, and then we think God sees us through that lens. So that's why I want to encourage you. See yourself through the lens that he sees you. And all of a sudden, it will change the way that it will change even the way that you go to God when you fail. Now you're not going to God all, oh, God, I messed up again. You know how we do. I suck. God, forgive me. I blew it. But you invite me to come to you in confidence, knowing that you receive me and that you love me. And so, God, help me to look at where did I go wrong yesterday so I can begin to looking at and doing things differently. Love out. Love out. Find someone with whom to journey. Find someone with whom to journey. This changing your thought process is difficult because your thought processes are so natural to you that you don't always recognize when your thinking becomes unhealthy. So if you have someone that you can process this journey with and you're talking about it and discussing it, then also you'll find someone that can give insight. And I will even tell you this. If the person is a counselor, that's okay. Sometimes we might need counseling to help us be able to see things that we cannot see ourselves. Nothing wrong with therapy. Absolutely nothing wrong at all. And then, love in. Train your brain to create new ruts. Train your brain to create new ruts. And here's what I want to encourage you to keep in mind. This is long-term investment. For example, if you're investing in the stock market, and all of a sudden, things begin to hit in the stock market, and the stock market starts to drop, do you just pull everything out? No. Now, you're wise. You might need to adjust what it is that you're invested in, but you don't just pull everything out. Why? Because you're not thinking in the moment. You're thinking long-term investment, long-term. And the reality is it takes time to change. So give yourself grace, process, grow, and then, again, watch what God can and will do. So I want to end this message with the same question that we began it with. Where are you? Where are you? Because God is inviting you to come home. Yes, you've made mistakes. Come home. Yes, you've disappointed yourself. Come home. Yes, you failed. Come home. And let's walk through this together. God, I thank you. I thank you because of